Greetings, everybody. We have returned once again, gathered around our devices to share our faces throughout the world for your entertainment.
Such as it is.
Yeah.
You weirdos.
Yeah. Damn straights.
Are you not entertained?
Are you not into trains?
I like trains.
Hey, Paul, just because I knew you were going to say it doesn't mean you should be allowed to say it.
Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So tonight we're going to be having a look at the new CRKT 2021 stuff that they have already released. It is up on Knife Center's website rather than actually on CRKT pages themselves.
Well, and that's the question on actual released or not. It's not actually up on their website or not. For some reason, Knife Center got a little bit of a sneak peek. And everything's on pre-order so far for them. But yes.
Yeah. And along with that little bit of the sneak peek, Knife Center also did do a quick, well, not quick, but almost an hour-long video on a whole bunch of the new offerings.
They sure did. They did get into actually handling the knives and going over them. There was a couple near slips of the tongue that I found rather entertaining that I'm sure we could discuss.
Oh yeah, we'll get into those.
Yeah. Yep. Well, should we just dive right in?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I was carrying Southern today.
Nope.
Very nice.
The what? The Southern? The Brower?
It's like,
Brower? Yeah, that thingy.
I was like, when did you get a Southern? Wait, that's not a Southern.
No.
That's
No.
Southern.
I don't know why I said Southern. Yes, the Brower. That would be the one.
Good stuff.
I'm jealous of that, man. I should have bought one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's a nice one for sure.
Nice and lightweight for me today. Manly Knives Wasp.
Nice.
So, yeah, one of those.
Very
So,
cool.
Slicey dicey.
Not quite slicey dicey, more pokey. I carried my fact today. All blacked out because I had to be different.
The wop in your soul is coming out.
The wop in my heart.
Fair enough. And then I'm carrying this week the CBV Rustic Gent.
Yeah, you're slow on the train there, Paul. Come on, man.
Well, forgot where I was for a second. Forgot this wasn't all just my imagination.
Or is it?
That's troubling.
Yeah. Just a quick shout out to Ben in chat. What's going on, brother?
Evening, Ben. And before we get too much further, going to make sure that everyone likes and subscribes, or else you will be cursed to forever have your seatbelt fall into the car door and not let it close properly, no matter how carefully you try to tuck the seatbelt out of the way when you get out of the car. Like and subscribe.
For the record, there's 3 people watching. 2 of them are us. And there's 3 likes. So thanks, Ben. Appreciate it.
Fantastic.
Yeah. He had that hair in his toothbrush and he was like, no, I'm out. I'm done. None of this.
That's enough of that.
I was going to say, I'm super happy that this week's curse was away from any of the grossities that we've been leaning towards lately. That was a train wreck that I'm glad we steered away from. That's just keep it on like just the annoying curses and not so much the retching curses. So.
No, next week we're gonna curse people with a
don't do it. Just don't do it.
A bowl full of belly button lint.
I honestly didn't realize that the Heron the toothbrush would be such a retching curse.
Well, that's where it started. But I mean, there was some trickle-down ideas over the last couple of weeks that I was not impressed with.
I don't like the word trickle. I just don't.
Trickle's not a good word for this. Let's talk about some other stuff now.
CRKT nice, you say, from 2021 even.
I do say. So yeah, like you had said earlier, CRKT, for whatever reason, probably because they're not ready to ship yet, doesn't actually have anything in their what's new section for this year, except for their limited Bonafide. So the new field strip, but this version is using the S35 and the field strip 2, with titanium handles.
Now, it's going to be extra interesting this year as well, as far as knife companies releasing, because there isn't going to be a SHOT Show this year. So it is quite interesting to see what's going to happen with all these companies on how they exactly are going to announce their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
If they're going to hold off until all the companies are doing it at the same time, or if they're going to just splash a whole bunch of, hey, let's do this type of thing at us, right? So I'm super curious about how it's going to go this year.
Indeed.
Yeah. So, yeah, because I mean, as far as the other knife companies are concerned, there hasn't really been a lot of public announcements yet. So maybe CRKT just wanted to beat everyone to the punch and be like, "Hey, normally we sponsor the SHOT Show, so because that's not happening, look at us, look at all our cool shit."
Yeah, and it's still going to be another couple weeks until we would normally have a SHOT Show anyway, right? Like it's.
I was gonna say it's the 3rd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's only been 2021 for 3 days.
We'll see how the rest of the year goes. So, do we want to talk about the limited edition? Kind of harp on that for a bit, or do we want to just go to some of the more standard offerings they're going to be coming out with?
Harp on? Why are we harping on it?
Oh well,
Joe feels ways about stuff.
No. I actually like. Okay, spoiler alert. I really like the Bonafide design. But I feel like because
what's he spoilering?
Oh, well, because we're going to be I'm spoilering what I feel about a knife that we're not actually talking about yet. I'm saying for the limited edition version, it doesn't quite do it for me. But again, we could get into that later. But
yeah,
what are we going to get into now?
Well,
don't get into that.
Get into something, Joe. Get into something.
Get into
Get
this?
into it.
Okay. Yeah.
Jump off the edge. Stop teetering. Just go.
Right. It's S35 VN. It's 6AL4V titanium. For all intents and purposes, it's going to be pretty awesome. Field strip has been something that has interested me personally for a long time. Because, again, just the quick cleaning aspect, but actually having a knife that locks up relatively solidly into your hand after being able to completely just pop apart, or almost completely pop apart, and having it be made out of titanium. The original, well, not the original, but the Homefront in M390 in titanium, that was a pretty well-regarded knife. A number of reviewers liked it a lot. I know Shabazz was pretty impressed by it.
So before you ramble and waver on too much further,
yeah,
you did kind of jump on the fact that you could take it apart, almost take it apart.
Yeah,
I like that you made that little correction to yourself, because that's my big issue with the new version of the field strip.
We'll get into that. I think there are some
get into it. God damn it.
So I don't actually know what the underside of this titanium handled version looks like. Let me see if I can bring up this video in another window, actually.
While you do that, what's going on, John?
David.
Ray? What's up?
I don't know if we're going to get in trouble for showing someone else's YouTube video, but whatever.
Yeah, we are.
I don't even care. So, for using this small percentage, so this is the underside of the new Homefront, no, not the Homefront, sorry, the Bonafide 2. Oh man, I don't even know if that's turning up on stream properly. Okay, it's kind of a
poor man is mid-blink for a very long time.
Okay, let me know if it stays there and stabilizes.
There it is. Oh,
it was just there. It went away. There it is.
Yeah.
Is it staying around now? Okay,
yeah.
I'll talk about it now. So in and around here, you can see this big steel plate on the top end of the knife. Or the top end of the frame here. So Nigel's concern is that you could get crap inside this hole here and this hole here, which coincide with the tail end of the knife and the pivot. You could get small particles on the inside of that mechanism.
Or under the holes that look like he's hiding with his thumb.
Yeah, these holes here, which probably have something to do with the mounting for the internal pivot of what we're assuming are two spring arms that go in opposite directions.
Similar to like an old style bank vault where the bar in the middle is the one that gets the force on it.
Yeah.
And it moves the two arms that will unlock top and bottom.
The only thing
reminds me of like ship doors.
Yeah.
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 The only thing I have to say in response to those concerns is this is a field strip, and Paul had brought up the definition of field strip today when we were talking about it, but this is a field strip. It really is just meant to get you a rudimentary access to the important parts of the design and be able to clean those relatively easily without tools, as opposed to a complete strip where you would then be able to oil and clean everything.
Okay, here's the other thing too, and I'm going to dive into it because I'm not going to dilly-dally around like Joe getting into it. I'm looking at the regular picture of the Bonafide, and it's got outer body screws.
It does.
You can actually take those steel liners apart
and that's my main my main point that I wanted to bring up, is that you can actually access those internal
full
components.
takedown instead of internal gunk. Yeah.
My big issue with it is with the original version, in the description on CRKT's page, they specifically say to be able to be disassembled without any tools. That is a sentence by itself.
The sentence is specifically easily disassemble your knife for cleaning without tools. And you can clean that knife without tools.
Yeah. So, but where I was trying to get there is if there was someone who is not familiar with the concept of field strip or known it from the gun world or anything like that, if you see the marketing and hear the hype about a knife that can be disassembled without any tools, and then they come out with a new version that you need tools to be able to disassemble, that just kind of bugs me.
Well, and here's the thing too, like if you look at the internal pivot, and I don't think there's any good pictures I can find offhand, but if you look at the internal pivot of the home front in particular, or the slacker, something that uses the old field strip, the way it worked was it had a threaded threaded spindle at the back end that you would screw in using the backspacer, and at the front end you would have a lever that turns basically a hex key, and that hex key is what locks everything in place. So the only thing that you'd really have to worry about keeping clean was the threaded hole, which if the screw was in wasn't going to get dirty in the first place, or the hex key when it turns. That being said, there's not a lot of space for grit to get in there, but there is space for grit to get in there. And on the home front and on the slacker, there are actually 2 set screws that hold that mechanism in place. So I think the argument that you're making could be applied to the old home front series, or the old Field Strip 1 series, just as easily as it could be made to the current iteration.
It could be on all of them except for the aluminum handled one, because I don't think
the slacker
it had any internal. The slacker has the internal screws as well.
Yeah, it's just 2 little set screws. But you're right.
I think the green aluminum one is the one that is just a bare bones. If you take it apart, there really is nothing else.
Okay.
Holding it together, tape it. Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on that. But
yeah, I'd have to look at a disassembly picture to know for sure at this point. But I guess it comes up to customer education. Like, people just have to be either made aware or made to understand that, hey, these are the limits of this design. It makes it easier for you to do some things, but not others.
Now this knife also has a caged IKBS.
Right, it does.
Yep.
And that caged IKBS rather is.
Are they ceramic? Because if they're not ceramic, but why though?
Well, okay, so on this particular design, I imagine it could be ceramic. They're not saying. Do they say down here?
Yeah, my only guess is why they went with the caged bearings in general instead of the Teflon washers from the first version is, from the sound of it in the video, they actually set the caged bearings into the pivot on the blade. So it's probably held in with friction, but as a way to not lose it. But you wouldn't be able to do that with the Teflon in any way because it would be too soft to be able to friction in unless it was like a really big chunk and not be able to get twisted into form, sort of thing.
Maybe and you got to watch out for losing spacers on the original field strip, because that is a hazard, right? But yeah.
I think keeping caged ball bearings friction fit into the design is actually kind of a smart move, because it gets you that repeatable, smooth action with a relatively easy to clean format. I'm kind of curious to see how much crap is actually going to accumulate on the inside of the pivot facing the blade steel. That'll be because if you can't remove those ball bearings, either from the cage or take the cage out of the blade, then how dirty is that really going to get over time? That's, inaccessibility being what it is. As far as the new releases go, this isn't the only version of the Bonafide that's actually, or Bonafide that's being produced. There's two different versions actually. One has.
Can I quickly aside to a question from the audience?
Yeah, absolutely.
In regards to field strip, Ben is asking, have you ever field stripped a knife out in the field? And then Mr. Fisk is saying, sub question, if you said yes, why are you lying?
Actually,
no, it's the only field strip I'm doing is wiping a fixed blade off before I put it in the sheath. That's
it's an
the
easy
cleaning
no
I'm doing.
Yeah.
So
field knife equals fixed blade. I pretty much don't carry a folder in the bush.
For myself, I actually tend to carry knives that'll have like simple construction and washers rather than ball bearings. Just saying, there's not as much room for crap to get in there and cause problems. So even if it is going to be a particularly dirty job, it's not something that I really feel like I have to disassemble my knife while I'm in the middle of a task, or in between tasks. It's never come up. Honestly,
that all being said, the CRKT field strip that we did give away in our last contest, I did actually purchase that one with the intent to take out in the bush as a specific food knife. And if I did get any sort of food gunk in there, I would have taken it apart, because just sitting around the fire and whatnot, wouldn't have been that hard.
Yeah, I'm going to say it right now. I like this knife.
So
I do. The Bonafide, I like the satin one better, because exactly what Nigel was talking about when it comes to sitting around the fire. D2 will take a sweet patina if you let it. So aluminum handles with a D2 that I can clean everything else out and get a cool patina on. Yeah, so, man. I don't see necessarily being a bad thing.
The one thing I wanted to say about it is, as far as that mechanism, I haven't found the exact knife that I'm like, that's the one that I want. That's the only reason I don't have one yet. Because I like the idea of taking it out and trying it and seeing if it can survive out in the bush. If it is a gimmick or...
Yeah, we ended up doing the giveaway and decided to donate that knife up before I had the chance to take it out. So, I don't know.
At the very least.
Now there's one in D2. They finally answered our question of, can you please give us some D2?
I was talking to Paul earlier today, and it's like, man, I've been bitching at CRKT since we started making videos saying you need to use better materials, with more interesting mechanisms, and you need to have more engaging designs. I think that the Bonafide is actually just the perfect little amalgamation of all those desires. So I'm going to be buying one for sure when they come out.
Starting to get there,
somewhere at CRKT, there's an executive watching our video, just giving Joe the finger the entire time.
Yeah, pretty much. I will say
there's no one from CRKT watching. They've watched our last videos from CRKT, like knives that have been on the channel.
Yeah, they just gave it up.
They gave up a long time ago when it comes to us reviewing CRKT knives. But damn, I like this knife.
Yeah.
And as far as style-wise goes, I really enjoy the limited edition one.
Yeah.
Can you flip back to it and show the backside of it, Jill?
Yeah. I got it up there.
And as far as just like the little details that just really tickle my fancy, the screw head on the backside there, how it's got that sunburst design on it.
Yeah.
Kind of cool. Kind of cool.
Okay, I will say though, you don't notice it on the regular Bonafides because it's just an everyday clip and whatever. But the clips feel so forced on the limited edition version because
laying over top of the graphic.
And
it's kind of Like if you look,
I understand where you're gonna put it, and compared to the regular ones, I went over and I looked at some of the regular Bonafides just to look at the clips, and I was like, they actually look not bad. Like it's pretty much everyday, whatever, deep carry, but on that one with all,
just call it what it is.
I do agree.
Clip,
also going to say, I haven't checked all their models, but on most of the deep clip carry models that I've noticed, they've actually started countersinking most of their screws under the pocket clip and then nesting the clip into the scale material. So they're starting to really pay attention to getting stuff in and out of the pocket, at least a little bit more, I think.
So that's super awesome that they did that on one side of the knife.
Yeah.
On one side of the knife? What do you...
It's there's no recess on the other side.
You're totally
and it's held on with one screw.
I didn't even know it was going to come
Yeah,
up.
the one screw thing I'm not super keen on.
Never mind. They did.
But
Okay.
You see this manly knife I was carrying today with that little metal plate on it for absolutely nothing, and you see the CRKT that doesn't have that. Okay, I shouldn't bitch though.
Yep.
Their price point is not too bad. It's for what you're getting on this thing.
I take it back as well. That screw isn't countersunk on this particular model, so I take that back. But I have noticed on some other models they did do it.
The actual clip itself is, but the screw isn't. Yeah.
Yeah. There was also
the question. Sorry. The question
One
that got
last...
raised today. Okay.
Oh,
go ahead.
No.
Yeah, just if you can bring up the new mechanism.
The new mechanism.
Me and Joe were talking about whether or not that switch would be in a position where you could accidentally kick it open and disassemble your knife while you're trying to use it. And it seems like the placement is kind of like right where your hand would naturally fall to be around it without actually being on it.
Depending on how hard the spring has in there, because it seemed like from in the video that it was a definite, you had to pull it back before you could lift it up to get into the forward position. Right, so I think depending on how hard it is to get back enough. So yeah, hard to say.
Yeah. So and like I said, I don't think like your fingers are really even going to land on it. At least mine won't.
And I think for whatever reason, if you did it, you're still pinning the handle close, holding it. So you might feel it pop as you do it, but I would instantly stop when you felt that, because it's going to have a little spring to it. So you're probably going to feel this little click when you do it. Ease off, go, oh, fuck, I just did that, and then continue on, right? So
my concern would be is if they were doing it as a left-handed carry as well, that you would catch it on the edge of your pocket as you're putting it in and out, and maybe that's why they didn't make it a left-handed carry.
Okay, that actually is
You're on the wrong team, Nigel.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that I like that choice. It's just, as I was thinking about that, it popped into my head, and it was just like, oh, maybe.
Yeah, you got some point. You got
just for the record, from Ben and watching us, lefties be pissed off again. Oh, well.
There's enough of us out there. It's
10%.
Yeah.
Enough. That's enough.
Yeah.
Is it though?
It's not.
We're into the double digits. In double digits of percentages. It's definitely enough.
Enough for what?
Ask your mama.
I don't want to. She's going to have answers I don't want to hear. So.
Okay, carry on.
And Fisk's comment is 100% right. Whenever you hand a knife, someone who hasn't played with field strip, the first thing they do is they flip that lever and they go, what does that do? And you're just like, you've already half taken apart the knife.
I have literally shown somebody how to disassemble the knife, reassembled it, handed it to them, and they immediately go, what does this do? And still kick the switch. So
well, if there's one thing you've learned, Paul, is that sometimes when you say words, people don't listen, right?
True story.
A memoir.
So on that note, I think we should jump onto another knife because we
should. Yeah,
over halfway through the first half here.
Right.
Or first episode here.
Super quick note before we go. The two different versions of the Bonafide use different blade styles. The satin version has a saber grind. The black and green has a full flat. Just in case somebody was like, hey, aren't those blades different? Yes, they are different.
Weird.
Yep.
Weird. Yeah.
Why? Oh, God damn it! The coated blade is full flat. That's what I want.
I know, right?
Sucker.
And it's funny because
next knife.
Yeah. Whatever.
Yeah.
Speaking of aesthetics, we wish may have been a little bit different. What do you guys think of the Alan Foltz ritual?
Oh God.
Yeah, we're talking about that now because there's
There we go.
Ritual. Okay, we're just jumping all over the map. Is that what?
Yeah. What sort of order were we going in that we had agreed on that we're not going in now, Joe?
I
We're
mean,
not
we
going
jumped
in
on the
order.
boat. We jumped on the boat.
apparently.
Yes, we are. Get back up to the top. We're looking at the BY, you sons of bitches. For anyone else who wants to follow along and make any rhyme or reason to this,
Oh, that's the wrong one. All right,
we
BWAP.
can just look at all their neck knives if we want, because honestly, they're all worth just having a quick skim over.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. So BWA, that's an 8CR blade. It's a little field and trout. This is an Alan Foltz knife. That makes sense as an Alan Foltz knife, right? Paul even said he'd buy one.
Yeah, if it fits into the comfy 3-finger grip that I'm hoping it might be, I'm probably going to grab one.
It's going to be a moss back. It's a very very similar to, and it's not going to be the exact same. But I mean, as far as the ratio goes, I almost guarantee it's going to be the same as a.
Pardon me.
A moss back.
Nigel, I don't know if you have.
I
don't know if you have a ruler handy for yourself, but the handle length is 3.6 inches.
Cool. Yep. No, that'll be comfy because I'm just over 4 inches.
Right. So for the 3-finger, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah. I have hopes.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm hoping for like Bow River, like Spyderco Bow River quality. I don't know. I don't know if that's asking too much.
I don't know. If you look at the pictures, they actually. Okay, so maybe the pictures aren't going to be perfect representations every time, but I'm going to assume these are knife center pictures because they actually have the knives in hand right now. I assume what we see is basically what we're going to get, and they look relatively clean.
These aren't knife center pictures. These are stock CRKT pictures.
You think so?
Oh, for sure. With the white backdrops and stuff like that. Yeah. This is pictures that CRKT gave to Knife Center to put up.
Okay, fair enough. In the video, most of the knives look pretty decent in terms of fit and finish anyway, so I'm going to assume that extends to this guy. Looks like T6 handle hardware, so you should be able to swap out the handle scales and make something new if that's what you want to do as well. Although I don't know how well they would fit in the sheath after the fact, because it does come with a nice little molded carry.
You just shape them to the sheath.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, the rest of the neck knives, I don't know. Does anyone have anything else? The Biwa, yeah, cool little bird and trout. We'll see what happens. It's a chromoly steel, so
it's 8CR.
So I wish for the price point, as far as like a bird and trout knife, same sort of thing as like the Bow River. I'm in for it.
It could be good.
I like neck knives. That one seems like a fun little one that's not going to hurt the bank too much.
Yeah.
So the
now, sorry, just we want to do the two minimalists together.
Yep.
Just talk about those in a combo because they've got lots of versions of minimalists out there. So.
Yeah, but this one is most exciting. Just want to verify before I say, but I'm pretty sure. Oh no, okay. So they're listing this one as 5CR13, but didn't they have a D2?
No, but that's what I was hoping for when it was blacked out, and then you're like, weren't. It's just black.
Okay. Yep. Well, that's disappointing.
Yep.
But the Cthulhu minimalist. Now we're talking.
So
yeah,
I don't mind the color of it for the graphic on the handle, but I wish they had done like a black handle that glowed in the dark, because like the Playmobil blue just doesn't do it for me for the Cthulhu.
Oh, I love it! I love it so much.
I kind of dig
terrible.
it as well.
It's like terrible, but
yeah,
I would do a handle swap. I would still dig the color for the graphics. I have no issue with like the blade graphic color. The sheath I could probably live with, but the handles I would swap out.
But you
buy
see,
one of the blacked out cleavers or the blacked out like drop point and do a handle swap on them. Yeah.
I mean,
exactly.
They're cheap enough that if you really like the design enough, I don't see why not. Although, to be fair, I probably will be buying this one for my fiance because it's just cute and awesome.
And then you would have a blacked out cleaver with a blue handle that glowed, which would also be kind of cool.
That wouldn't be bad, yeah.
Why do I...
Wheels are turning. Wheels are turning.
I like that, and I feel like I shouldn't like that.
No, I need to buy 3 because I need extra handles.
I assume that this minimalist trend is probably going to continue where they just keep doing 8CR variants with different graphics. I actually really like the green gears, but... I was telling Paul today, I kind of feel like I like the gear graphic more for myself, but I really dig the blue color more than I like the green. So I just can't be pleased. Is really what it comes down to.
And then the other thing, and I don't know how they do it. Ben's worked with some 3D printed. I know Joe's worked with some 3D printed, but they 3D printed the logo.
Yeah.
How does that work?
It's probably not. It's probably okay. Do they actually call it like a 3D print?
That's what they called it in the video.
Yeah.
And they said 3D printed design. Okay, so I'd actually
and I have heard a review from someone who had tested out one of them, and like it is hard to get that stuff off.
Right. Yeah, like even in the video, with the new CRKT stuff, they say that it was field tested and that actual coding is pretty solid.
When you say 3D printing, you're talking about an additive element, not something subtractive. So I don't know, honestly. I thought maybe they would that they would laser etch the design and then somehow pigment the burnt steel. That would be my guess as to how they would achieve this. But as far as an actual 3D print, I have no clue. Maybe Ben has an insight here.
So Ben did have a bit of an insight there. My random insight just from the metalworker side of it is if the blade is still somewhat warm, it's potential that as the plastic's being printed out, and because it's warm to be able to get printed out, it might have some sort of bonding effect. Because you can do kind of like a brass patina bonding coated over hot steel.
Yes.
Like if it's a dull cherry red and you rub it with a brass brush, that brass will be bonded and coated onto the steel, and you'll have to take like sandpaper to get it off.
And that's actually how that's very similar to how Kumbu works, like getting gold leaf permanently laid down onto steel as well. So maybe this is a similar technique.
How would that affect during heat treatment or after? Like,
normally
maybe they did it as like part of the heat treatment.
You maybe
in the cooling cycle of the heat treatment.
You could
cooling cycle or something. Yeah.
You could potentially do it as post heat treat as well. Like, it depends on the melting temperature for whatever plastic or resin that they used, and then the tempering temperature for HCR, which I don't have any earthly idea as to what that could be.
Yeah.
But either way, it's good to hear that it's actually durable because it's a cool knife. It should be used. It's
probably gonna buy that stupid knife.
I know, right?
Possible,
yeah. For the size, I don't think I'd mind it being HCR for just small, quick, little, easy cuts.
I'm already looking at buying 2 HCR knives next year.
It's that argument that if you change the steel out, how much would you actually notice? Because you're just going to be resharpening it every time. It has a little bit of a dull spot anyway.
Yeah.
So,
speaking of which, I dropped my neck muck today. It's going to need something.
Oh, no.
I thought you were going to say next knife, but
No, that's my job.
Yeah. Speaking of.
Next knife!
There we go. Okay, so next up, we've got what is that? Okay, this one's weird. The tailbone. And they call it a fixed blade. And I have questions.
So essentially, it's like a very closely knit together linked chain. So the chain only really flexes in one direction and barely flexes in the other direction.
Okay, let's call this what it is here. They put a bike chain on the end of a knife and they paracord wrapped it. And I'm okay with that. Don't worry. Don't get me wrong.
Motorbike chain.
Cool idea. But yes.
I am super curious to see what it would look like without the wrap. I want to see what those linkages
straight
look
up
like.
bike chain. It's a bike chain.
Yeah.
It's like Mantis knives.
The shit out of you.
And if that's the case, you know what? For the type of use you're going to get out of a blade that small, sure, why not? Like that's not the worst idea they've had. The one thing.
I don't necessarily hate it.
Yeah, I might be a little bit concerned about leaning into a cut and then having your hand twist and have the blade not twist at the same time. But I mean, if you're overused, if you know the limitations of your knife, it probably shouldn't be an issue.
Your knife is this big with a single hole in it. You should probably know the limitations of the knife.
Yeah,
but you
take
hear
that
about
car camping and food prep and hot dog stick whittling. Like that would be the hardest use.
But how many stories have you heard of guys just inadvertently using their knife for a task it was not designed for, just slashing the hell out of themselves? Like for the number of years
live and learn.
Yeah, exactly. Or you don't, and you die.
I want to throw it.
That's wrong.
That'd be gross. You might be able to throw it like a no spin and have it like the dart.
I was gonna
Dart,
say
yeah.
kunai like whip
I
style.
want to throw it
Yeah.
end over end and just see chaos happen.
Oh, terrible.
I'll actually like.
What's this made
I
of?
don't hate this knife either. I think it's 8CR as well, but only because I'm
sure
super
is.
picky about neck knives and like the idea that it is like Boker Gnome small, because the Boker Gnome is one of the ones I do actually enjoy, but then at the same time gives you a little extra something that I don't think you're gonna feel so much on your chest if you're wearing it, but it would still be yeah. So this one actually intrigues me.
I gotta be right back. Carry on.
Oh, I see what's going on here.
No, you don't.
Man, if I were to do that, Nigel lose shit on me. This is a double-edged sword right now.
Don't worry about it. Well, just as long as you're not both gone at the same time, because then Paul and I are just going to talk about other shit, and it's going to be bad.
No, I wanted to say there's an artist out there, and I forget their name off the top of my head, but they went through and they made a bunch of inconvenient like household items. Drinking glasses that had handles on sideways and coffee mugs with a handle on the inside. Forks that were linked with chain, the tines to the blade of the fork.
The useless
and the
objects.
handle.
Yeah.
the
Those are
thick
fantastic.
fork, things like that. And I feel like somebody looked at that art and then made this knife.
But then like totally missed the point because the knife is actually somewhat functional.
Well, I'm hoping
Yeah. Because honestly, for the price, it looks like it's going to be a pretty reasonable little thing, right?
This is going to be functional like a Boker Gnome is functional.
Yeah. You're not going to expect the world out of it, but hey.
I'm not going to treat this knife like it's an Essie Azula.
No. God help you.
What's the overall blade length? Just out of curiosity.
Sorry, overall blade? What do they say here? 2.125. So
that's longer than I thought.
Yeah, which means you got a pretty decent sized opening there to work with. That's not too bad. Oh, they actually have.
Said.
Yeah, I was waiting for that. There was another comment here about 3D printing. Temper detemper is a lot higher than 50 to 80 Celsius for 3D print temperatures. Okay, so yeah, 3D print temperatures for like PLA and stuff like that. I'm not sure what they're using for the minimalist we were looking at, but I somehow don't think it's the corn-based polymer. It's probably something a lot more resilient. I just don't know. But you're right. Those temperatures are going to be a lot lower than detempering levels.
But yeah, I'm super curious on how they 3D printed it on there, because that is specifically what they said, is it was 3D printed onto the blade.
Just interesting. So, it's interesting.
All right, next
night.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, so next on the list, that's the Schwarz Scribe. This little thing was okay. It's weird. Is it 8CR? It's 5CR.
I wasn't really that interested. Like, I was kind of mildly interested because it's cute.
Yeah.
And then I saw the price point, and I'm gonna buy one.
Yeah, I mean, for less than 20 American MSRP is 25 American. So for that, yeah. What's the 1.74? Like, that's a small blade.
Yeah.
Does it? What's
that?
Yeah.
Like a...
It's a fixed blade with a clip that pops apart like a Sharpie, is what they were saying.
Yeah.
The action was like...
Joe, if you go onto the picture with the pocket clip, you can see two little cutouts on the sheath side of it, and there's some sort of mechanism in there for the retention.
You can see the notch right there.
Yeah. So as long as that sheath holds together well over time, I mean, it's not a bad little format. I kind of like that it looks like a tiny USB stick when it's all snapped together. Or like I'm sorry, what was it called? The Shirasaya?
And I do like that they designed it that you can use the sheath, the blade sheath, onto the lanyard hole for a longer handle.
Unless you have a lanyard on it.
They don't. Well, if you have a lanyard, then what's your problem? No. But they don't. They don't really.
Well, if you're using a bike chain as your lanyard, what's your problem?
Exactly. But there is no picture here of it. But what Nigel's talking about really is just the top end of that cover going onto the butt end, and I'm not 100% sure how I feel about that. Specifically because with that small amount of leverage and there's no blade to keep it in place in case it pops sideways, I wonder if you squeeze too hard, even would it pop apart in your hands?
With that small amount of a blade, you wouldn't be pushing that hard.
It's the same as the
You
tail
shouldn't
bow.
be pushing
You
that.
already know what,
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
know what both of these knives.
It's
are
gonna
for,
make a
right?
knife
Like,
that's actually like a 3-finger grip for Nigel, so it seems like a good option for those bigger mitts.
For sure. I'm just curious at what point does stuff start falling apart. Not so much that I think it's going to, or that it, even in the realm of likelihood, but I am curious about it.
I think this
Sorry?
on an S carabiner on your keys would be a good option too.
Yes.
Where you can take it off and use that feature without having to have a lanyard hanging off the back end of it.
And they're using that same sort of carbon fiber-esque printing for the texture. For a knife that small, I'm glad they put some texture on it, but I wonder if that's going to be enough. Just thinking about how it's felt in the past.
Again, light duty, I don't think it's going to matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For opening mail.
Yeah, pretty much.
So one of the things I'll say right off the bat, and especially in this picture here that you can see, when I first scrolled past this picture, I was like, oh, they totally ripped off one of those James slip joint keychain folder knives. Because holy crap, it looks just like one, except it doesn't fold. And then up until even watching the Knife Center YouTube video, I thought that was a folder. When I scrolled through Knife Center's, like, what the new knives were. Right. And then this afternoon, I actually sat down and watched the video. And when they were talking about the sheath and the whatever type, I was like, oh, that's a fixed blade. Like, it's cool. Like,
it's a wee tiny little fixed
blade.
Because
I straight up just thought that was a James ripoff of the little 12C27 for 100% more or 1,000% more than what they're selling this one for with similar steel.
How does 12C stack up to 5CR? I've never actually bothered to compare those two directly.
Not 1,000% more.
Well, I figured, but I've never actually looked at the stats for it.
Because that's what the James company, it's like 150 American or something like that.
James Brand's business model is basically, hey, what if we made some semi like kind of cool looking designs and then just jack the price way up there? And they made a ton of money apparently because they have their following. They have a lot of people who like their stuff.
Yeah.
Next knife.
Or do we want to call it here for the first episode because it is 8:00?
I was going to say next knife and just call it the last one and go a little bit long because there's still a lot to get through.
Perfect. Okay, so the last one in this row is the Lucas Burnley Heron. So we're kind of interesting with the two-tone carbon fiber and G10 here, at least in the tan they're showing.
Okay. Yeah. Here's the bitchy thing for me. When I scrolled through on this thing, it actually looked like it was a bronze steel or aluminum or bronze titanium with carbon fiber, and it really, really appealed to me. And then I looked in depth, and it was brown G10, and I was like, "What the hell are you people doing? This should be a bronze stainless steel with carbon fiber, and this thing would be a squid killer."
Yeah, or an aluminum.
Fantastic. Yeah, something. You bet. With the frame lock on the other side, it could rival a pillar type of idea. But this brown G10, you know it's going to be like a sandy color that's not going to jive at all. I don't know.
And if they had done it steel as well, it would have probably been pretty damn easy to do the same sort of inlays for the carbon fiber on the lock face side as well to make it fucking matching, damn you.
Well, and even if you didn't make it matching, at least make it like bronzed.
Okay.
Like you could bronze the other side.
Well,
so
exactly. And if they did use steel on the other side, they could have put a left-handed pocket clip there too, but they sure didn't. They sure didn't on this one.
Yeah.
They didn't do any of those things. This knife had some sweet potential. But
the design overall, I actually don't find myself disliking. Even the weird sunbursty sort of thing going on, that's acceptable to me. But yeah, you're right. I think the G10 just kind of kills it. Which is weird because normally I like seeing the G10 stuff from CRKT. Maybe it's been so many years of plastic handles that whenever I get G10, it's kind of like, yeah, cool. But this wasn't the only small knife in their lineup for 2020, but I think you're right. This is somehow really disappointing, even though I didn't really know it existed until a few days ago.
Mm-hmm.
Fisk is calling it a pilar in chat.
He's right.
I was just about to say that the blade steel is, or the blade shape is not something that I think fits on that handle, but I do think it fits on something else that they gave out this year. Mr. Fisk, the PLR maybe. You gave it away.
We've got opinions.
Yeah.
Before we get to those opinions, I guess we universally are a little bit turned off by this knife. Any redeeming
I
qualities?
just had high hopes when I was scrolling through it, and it didn't live to the hype at all.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
And I think it's still ATR still, right? Like
yeah,
it's not,
ATR 14. So
yeah. So it's not even like the Tribe.
Yeah.
Hey, it's 14.
And I know Mr. Fisk was just knocking me for mispronouncing pillar, and I know it's a pilar, but sometimes we need a pilar break. So
I hate that.
That's fair. We'll cut it at that. So yeah, hang around for a short little while here. Go off and empty out your bladders and refill your drinks in the appropriate order, and we shall return shortly with everyone. See you soon.